All right. Hello there and welcome to another MeasureSchool live stream. I don't have much music in the background. It feels so empty right now, but we are live right now on this fine day. We already have some people join us here, so it's really great to see already some questions even from Curtis, from Son, if I pronounce this correctly, Emmanuel, Chirac, we have Jose here as well, and Milena, thumbs up. Okay, everything is working, and hopefully everybody can hear me as well. But I'm not doing this alone today. I have a little, I have a guest today, or somebody who has already, might be familiar to you already because he has done a video for us in the past few days on this channel as well. And he's gearing up to do more videos for the channel on the exact topic that we're going to talk about today, Facebook tracking. So please welcome with me. Oh, we have no captions. Please welcome with me, Cedric. So Cedric, say hello.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Cedric, and thanks a lot, Julian, for having me today.
Cool. Everybody can hear us, hopefully. And yeah, we have Cedric on today because while I have worked with Facebook ads quite a bit and also do all the little tracking tutorials on the channel when it comes to implementing the Facebook pixel, there's lots more to it nowadays when it comes to Facebook tracking, obviously. And Cedric actually runs an agency called Vertex Marketing Agency. I have like these captions
That's
here.
The one. Oh, perfect.
Here we go. Vertex Marketing Agency, and he does Facebook ads all day long, right? So maybe, Cedric, if you could introduce yourself, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly like you said. So I am the co-founder of Vertex Marketing Agency, which we are a Facebook agency, and that's all we do. All day long, I just focus on Facebook advertising. So that's what we do, and we're also a Shopify partner. So if any of you guys have questions today about maybe the Shopify and Facebook integration, maybe how is Facebook and Shopify communicating, especially on with the conversion API, those are all questions I can answer today.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it, and you guys can see you're actually now in Ottawa, right?
Yeah, Ottawa. Exactly.
Ottawa, the Shopify city. So
exactly.
That's the famous city now through Shopify. Okay. I'm really excited because there are obviously some big changes within the Facebook ecosystem when it comes to tracking, but also the ad system. Now everybody knows what has happened over the last 6 months, where Apple announced the iOS 14 update, and a lot of people were freaking out. But then actually Facebook was the biggest vendor to actually react. So Google, I would say, was pretty calm about it. But Facebook had this big ad in the New York Times, and then people was starting to freak out. And then they actually also changed the ads interface, right? So there were a bunch of changes that you had to make in order to still be doing advertising, and they changed a bunch of things around. And at the same time, we saw some innovation in the market with Google bringing out Google Tag Manager for the server side, but then also Facebook opening up to a server integration, which is called the Conversion API. So that's all interesting stuff that is happening there. And but this should not be about like just a recap of everything that is going on. We actually want to look through your questions and see what we can answer here. So if you have any questions, please put them into the chat. We are mainly looking on the YouTube chat. So if you have a question there, then put it in or go on YouTube if you really want to have your question answered, because you might be seeing this also on LinkedIn or the other channels where we are posting this. So definitely head over to YouTube, and there's where we will gather all the questions. And let me see who is here now. We have Keith as well joining us, Nitesh, or was it Nilesh? Yeah, Nilesh, I think. Manuel, Bent, Rory, really cool. Ike is here as well, Atul. So let's pick a question here and see where we can start off. So really cool to have you guys join us. And let me see, is there a Facebook related question? Here. Let's go with this one first. Bobby Lewis asked, what is meant by Facebook analytics going away? What's that going to mean? So that's an easy one to start with, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can go. I feel like you're
well,
you're going to talk about Google Analytics probably. So
sure. You can actually look into a video that I've done probably like 4 years ago, pretty at the beginning when it started out. I think it was 2016, if I remember correctly. And Facebook announced Facebook Analytics. So if you are in your Facebook interface, you can actually go. Is it still available? I don't actually know. You can go over to Facebook Analytics, and this was a tool set that was offered on top of the Google Ads interface. So you were able to, yeah, it's still here. Let me just switch over to my screen really quickly and see if I can show this. So we have here the MeasureSchool Pixel. So here we have already also Facebook Analytics. So down here we have Analytics, and you can actually see all the stuff that Facebook has tracked. And it gave you kind of an overview on what the pixel is doing and what it has tracked on your website. It helped you in certain circumstances to find out how good or what your cohorts are, because Facebook had so much data on the actual user. And yeah, I haven't really created anything here. So you see, it's pretty dormant, at least for our pixel. But you were able to create all these kind of breakdowns, journeys, see how people work through the website. Because the Facebook pixel, at some point, you installed it not only for conversion tracking, but on every website out there. And that was something that Facebook provided. And now they're shutting this tool down and are only doing their normal Facebook ads tracking. So the ads tracking data will not go away. It's just about this one part of the ecosystem of Facebook. And yeah, I don't know if it's going to be missed. What do you think, Cedric?
Honestly, I think there's a reason why they're removing it, and it's probably they saw that not a lot of people were using it. There's definitely a use case for using it, but even us as an agency, like, we just have other ways of like looking at our funnel. And I think that's the primary reason. Other reason is probably also because of iOS. They have a big demand and they have to probably do so many different things in order to not get affected too much by this. So I'm sure that's probably the other reason.
Yeah, I think also that, so when I was first looking at it, it was like kind of revolutionary also. Well, revolutionary because Facebook actually knows when you are logged in and you come to the website. And so they can really do user analytics on a basis that Google Analytics was never really able to do, as they are mainly based on cookies that they set. And this cookie could be deleted, and therefore you don't know if this is the same user. But Facebook kind of knew if you go from one device to a next and you're still logged in with your Facebook account in the background at least, then I know that's the same user. And so I thought, oh, this could be really interesting and a little bit of competition. But yeah, never really used it, and haven't really heard too much about it from other parties as well. Now, I know that there are some people upset about this because they were using it actively. I also think one other reason that I could imagine why this is being shut down is that Facebook obviously is under scrutiny for all of their privacy practices. They gather a lot of data from us. And when they actually make that data public, so they actually show you, hey, this guy is in this cohort or so, then it kind of has another attack angle, right? Because you can see, hey, I can look up what user data is in the is visiting my website and so on. And by shutting it down and just concentrating it on the ads data, then it's like, okay, you want to do ads, you want to know what conversions are, you want to be targeting. We give you all this capability, but you can't really like get too much insights on it. So this is just for us in the third-party context for the advertising. So I think there might be a privacy play here, as well as also the US and other countries are expanding on like the whole privacy concerns here. So there might be something to keep in mind, but it's just a theory. I don't know what's going on in the background there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a loss for the whole analytics industry a little bit, because obviously if you have more data sources, you can like correlate data and see like, oh, I really like that analytics data from Facebook better, because some people frankly don't want to use Google Analytics and trust Facebook more. I don't know if that's actually a legit reason. Okay, let's go on and talk a little bit about conversion tracking here. So common thing, Jeremy asked, our Facebook ads revenue is always way off from our Google Analytics revenue for Facebook ads. We use UTM codes. Where should I start? What would you say, Cedric?
Yeah, so you're saying that it's higher in Google Analytics. That's what he's saying, correct?
Probably.
Than in Facebook ads?
Or Facebook ads could also be higher. At least there's a difference, right?
Revenue is always with, okay. I mean, I usually notice that I see in my Facebook ads for the majority of our clients is always actually higher than what I see. So no, Facebook ads is way higher. Okay, yeah. That's honestly totally normal. I personally think that Facebook does a better job at tracking than Google Analytics, because they're doing things like user-based tracking. So I think, well, that's something I've seen where in Facebook ads, there's always more conversions than in Google Analytics. And I mean, that's probably also what Facebook wants, right? They want the user, they want the client to see that they're making more money or more revenue. It's a Facebook ad. Yeah, I think they just take more attribution and better tracking.
And that's probably also what a Facebook agency guy would say, kind of, which is fair enough. I just think the first thing that you would need to think about is attribution. How is attribution handled? In Facebook ads, at least, it's you are kind of gone here, Cedric. So maybe you need to fix your camera. I'm not sure what that's all about. But anyways, I'm gonna go over here and say, oh, here's back. So the thing is that attribution is kind of different. Google Analytics is a web analytics tool. You install it on your website, and they kind of have an advertising product, which is Google Ads, right? So Google Ads is kind of like Facebook ad system in terms of its tracking. And what happens with conversion tracking when you have a revenue number is actually that on the thank you page, the Facebook pixel sends data over, the Google Analytics data is transferred, and it is also transferred to Google Ads, right? All of these conversion pixels fire on your thank you page. Now, how does Facebook actually decide whether there was a revenue came through them? Well, they will just look into their cookies or any other method there and say, was there a prior ad click of that user? And they just care about the ad click because they want to show you in the ads interface, okay, this campaign made this much money for you or made you a conversion, right? So they connect these two dots. That's all they care about. Google Analytics basically looks at much more data because they see all of these different sources coming in, and they will only attribute the last non-direct source. That's like the attribution model that they use. So let's imagine Facebook sends you traffic, that exact user, but then doesn't buy and comes back through Google Ads. Let's say Google Ads, right? And Google Analytics will then say to you, okay, we have one person that came through Google Ads because that's the last source that when the user actually converted. So let's say the user came through Facebook ads, then he came back through Google Ads, and then he bought, right? So these are the 3 touch points. And so Google Analytics will show you, okay, one conversion for Google Ads, but Facebook ads would actually say one Facebook ad for us, or one ad conversion for us, because they only see their own platform. They don't care about Google Ads or Google Analytics or whatever, right? Because they just want to show you, okay, this ad actually converted for you, and this is totally legit. It's just a different viewpoint, right? You want to get as much data into the Facebook ad system in order to optimize your ads and know what was effective. And then Google Ads will actually also say, okay, we have actually also converted that user. So if you would pull data from Facebook ads and Google Ads together, you might end up with way more conversions, because way more conversions than actually happened that you can track in your Facebook, in your backend actually, because the Facebook ads conversions are counted just prior ad click. Google Analytics does last click attribution or last non-direct source, and then Google Ads also does normally with the conversion tracking pixel does last prior ad click or prior ad click. If there was a prior ad click, we will attribute it to our system. So it's just, I think the first thing is that you need to think about is the attribution. The attribution model is just different.
Yeah, all they care about is, were we involved in the process? And if they were, and obviously if they're able to prove it and track it, then they'll definitely show that conversion, even if the last touch point was, like you said, on Google Ads or something like that.
Right. Okay, then let's go on to talk about a hot topic here, conversion API. Is that the future of conversion tracking? So for everybody who doesn't know, Facebook has now a API that you can basically send data to in order to kind of upload data into the Facebook ads system and then use that for tracking. And this is named the, is it actually named server? It's named Conversion API. Yeah, Conversion API. And it's meant for server-to-server speak or communication between two servers. And it actually is an authenticated endpoint. So not everybody can just send data into your Facebook account. That's a different story for Google Analytics, by the way. Although Google Analytics 4 also has now an authenticated endpoint. So you would need to set that up, and then you can send data apart from your Facebook pixel into the Facebook ad system and attribute it to your ads. But there needs to be some stuff in place here. Cedric, do you want
100%.
to talk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So first thing I want to mention is that a lot of people get confused with the conversion API because the word conversion is in it, but it's not just for leads or purchase. I know right now that's really popular, especially with Zapier. You see a lot of people showing you how to send, let's say, a purchase event to Facebook using Zapier, but you can also send an event like add to cart or any other event that you would be sending with the Facebook pixel originally, but now it's just you can also send it with the Facebook conversion API. Now let's talk about the question. So is the conversion API the future for tracking? Yes and no. I think that for right now, in the next few years, we're going to see the Facebook pixel working alongside the conversion API. And I think that whatever we can't track with the Facebook pixel for whatever reason, that's the goal, is to be able to track it with the conversion API using server side, right? So I think these two will be working together, and maybe in the future, after looking at a lot of reports with page speed, we might realize that, oh wow, well, all these companies are just using server-side tracking and all using the conversion API. They've actually removed the Facebook pixel from the website, and they're still able to report all the conversions and also improve their website speed. So then when that happens, then maybe, yes, I believe that conversion API will be like the thing, right? It's going to be, okay, well, you want to set up tracking on your website for Facebook, then just use the conversion API and let's not use the Facebook pixel. And then more companies are just going to rely on the conversion API. But I think that they're going to still be working together for a long time until we can really prove that. And it becomes this buzz in this industry to remove the Facebook pixel to just do it via the server. What do you think, Julian?
Well, I think that the technology is definitely something that is new and definitely the future, right? So the server-side tracking and server-side endpoints and sending data via a server into Facebook ads is way safer because we are not relying on any kind of client technology, which is, for example, cookies or a pixel being installed on the website. But everybody needs to understand that this is a technical hurdle that or the setup is kind of a technical hurdle. It's not the Facebook pixel and also tracking codes itself has become so easy to implement with tools like Google Tag Manager. You can just press 2 buttons and then suddenly it's installed, right? With the conversion API, it's meant to be used with servers. What does that mean? So if you imagine that you have a website and you have you have WordPress running, or your website is powered by WordPress, that means that on a server, on a computer somewhere else on the internet, there lies your software, WordPress, which generates these HTML pages, which get sent down to your browser. And on this browser, your tracking codes are fired into and transfer data into Google or to Google Ads or to Facebook ads. Now, server tracking technology is quite different because you are actually taking that computer where your software is running, so WordPress, and sending data directly from there. Or you can do a hybrid kind of thing where you do server-side tagging with Google Tag Manager, for example. There's a server-side tagging solution now out there as well. But all of this needs to be set up. And it's not trivial because the pixel was doing so much in the background, like finding user identifiers, knowing where the user came from, which ad he clicked on, and then transferring this over. This now needs to be kind of set up manually in the server itself, and then you would send it into the conversion API. And so setting that all up right now is probably quite hard to do if you have a manual website. Now, there are already systems out there like Shopify, for example, which will be able, you just click a button, and Shopify is obviously the software that is running your store. And from there, it will send the data over. And they have obviously partnered up with Shopify, and Shopify built that integration. And now when there's a conversion happening, you can send it over to the conversion API, and you get great data, right? And maybe Cedric, you have already played around with it. What is your experience with setting something up like that?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it works if your goal is to only track purchases via the API. Then it works really well. I mean, we get I believe a 7.8 event quality match, so it's out of 10. So honestly, it's really great. If you also, I want to mention, if you want to track maybe more than just purchase, there's also plugins that you can attach to your Shopify store, and it's going to let you like send other events like add to cart, for example, to your Facebook pixel, and you're going to be able to track for these events. So there's like plugins, or not plugins, but I think they're also called plugin on Shopify, like Elevar, which is a great one that you actually don't need to know how to code or anything like that. They did honestly a really great job helping people that are maybe not, that don't know JavaScript or anything like that, and help them how to set it up and how to install server-side tracking. So we see that these solutions are coming out, which is great because it can help business owners that, again, don't know how to code, don't know JavaScript, and help them install server-side tracking. So I definitely think that it will maybe be the future. The only thing is, I don't know if Facebook wants it to be the future, because I know that Facebook definitely loves when you put that pixel on your website, because they definitely collect a lot of information, and I don't know if they would want that to go away. So who knows?
And we need to mention that once these integrations are there, right? For Shopify, for example, there's this integration which works so great that you can think of other website systems that could where the data is standardized. So, for example, on a Wix store or Squarespace or whatever these websites are all called. But it gets more complicated when you look at WordPress, because WordPress can do so much. It could be a lead generation website, it could be a blog, it could be a store even. And this is not like a boxed off kind of thing. And that's why it's harder for them to actually build integrations for this. But once it gets to be so easy that you can just click a button, I think it's the future. And right now it's still in the infancy, and most of the people are starting to use it, but I doubt that it can have mass adoption without big integration parts from tool vendors that actually want to send their data over there and make it easy for the client, because setting up something from scratch is not as trivial, I would say, than just placing a Facebook pixel on your page. That's obviously much easier. So the future, definitely, but is the future now? Who knows? Okay. Okay, let's go with this question from Sam. Facebook are removing the store visit optimization and store traffic objective. I heard this from their support team this week. Do you still recommend using the store visits objective or something else? Do you have store owners that actually use your services, or?
No, especially not with what's happening right now with the pandemic.
True.
Most people are shopping online. No, but it's pretty cool. Like, I did do some research on that, but I've never actually really tried it out. Usually, all our clients, especially in e-commerce industry, they just want sales online, or they're looking more for brand awareness. I've looked into it, but I've never actually ran a campaign. I obviously there's a reason why I didn't do it. It's probably because I personally think that conversion is way better. It depends on your goal. Like, are you looking to get more conversions? Then I believe the conversion campaign would be an awesome objective. If you're looking more for brand, then maybe a brand awareness or reach campaign would be a better objective. But again, I've never really played with the store visit objective.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to give a recommendation here, I think, when you heard this from the support team, and it obviously depends on your data and how reliant you are on it. If there are many campaigns that, Facebook and also Google ads, right, in any kind of PPC environment, you need to put work in order to find the winning combination and make your campaign work. So if the objective is changing, you probably need to go through and create a new campaign, which brings all the kind of learning phase with it and so on. So right now, switching over, I think, would be maybe running something in parallel would be the way to go, in order to see that you will not be caught off guard once they actually depreciate this. And I think that Facebook always, or at least to their advertising partners, they will always try to communicate very openly, okay, this is going away. Even Facebook Analytics here is going away on June 30th. So they send out an email and so on. So you should be aware of that, and Facebook will probably let you know once it's time to switch over. And maybe they will even give you the ability to switch over your campaign to a new kind of objective there. But yeah, it's hard to tell, to give a blanket statement here of switching over or not. So I hope that answers your question, Sam. And let's see if we have more. Okay. Let's go with this one. How to set up custom conversions for leads in Facebook.
Custom conversion. So are you talking about the Facebook pixel, I believe?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the best way I think would be to do it with Google Tag Manager. Julian, you have a bunch of videos on the channel about how to do that, but you just have to figure out what you want as your trigger. So usually what I like to do, and that's what we do for our agency. So when we get a lead, we just redirect them to like a thank you page, or a page that is unique, and only the people that have submitted the form or booked a time in my calendar will see that page. And then I track the page URL as like that's my trigger to send the tag containing the lead event. But if you go on Google and you type something like Facebook pixel events, it's actually going to give you a list of all the different events that you can send, and it's going to give you the exact code that you need to copy and then just paste it in your tag, and then just make sure you add your script tags. So you just open your script and you close it, and then that's going to be your tag. And then, like I said, your trigger, I would recommend going with the page URL that is unique, like something that is unique in the URL of the thank you page.
And the thing is that this will send data into your Facebook account, but then you can, well, if you send it in as a lead, then it will be automatically put into the ads interface, right? And you will be able to correlate your ads clicks based on the conversion goal of leads, right?
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. It actually used to be like that simple, but now because of iOS, of course, there's something new
Oh yeah.
called aggregate event measurement. So you just need to go in there and just tell Facebook that you want to track leads as part of one of your 8 events. And once you have that, it might take, first of all, let's say you create the tag, it might take 24 to 48 hours after you do a test and you convert to make sure your tag is triggering. And when you're sending the first lead event to Facebook, it might take a little bit until you can see it in aggregate event measurement. But then after that, like I said, wait 24, 48 hours and you should see it as part of like your like they'll recommend you and they'll tell you, here are all the events that we saw you sent us. Which one do you want to add as part of your 8 events? And then you would obviously just pick lead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's always changing there. And in terms of like you said you would probably choose Google Tag Manager and then a thank you page, which is the easiest to set up. There are a bunch of stuff in Google Tag Manager like form submit and other ways to track a form. But to be honest, I always tell people like, yeah, we can like try to set this up and fiddle around with it. But the easiest is always to have just a thank you page. And although it's maybe not the nicest from a UX standpoint, because all these forms now do some pop-ups or whatever, it's the easiest from a tracking perspective. And if you really want to get your tracking right, then you want to have a page view there, and you can then track correctly. And there are actually different ways to set up this kind of Facebook event. So Google Tag Manager is one part. You could also do it directly on the page with the Facebook pixel. You need to know or not do anything wrong in terms of the coding. And if you have the Facebook pixel installed, there's also something called automatic event tracking. I don't know. I don't use it much often because I find it kind of scary in terms of like, is this really like the form that I meant to be tracking here, or is something else happening through the automatic event tracking? Do you use it quite often, Cedric?
I don't use it, but I've played with it. Especially, I remember when it was actually a client, because I was asking like, "Hey, how do you track?" That was like a while back. Because I'm like, "How do you track your events?" I was like, "Oh, I use this." Then I look into it. I'm like, "Oh, okay." I always use Google Tag Manager, but then I played with it, and you can still do some pretty cool things. Like, let's say you want to track purchase value, you can highlight the value with that little tool, and then it's like somewhat like creating a JavaScript variable that goes ahead and collects the information on the HTML for that specific item and then shoots it back into Facebook so that you can see your purchase value in Facebook. So I was like, oh, honestly, that's pretty cool. But I don't really use it, especially since a lot of my clients are using Shopify. The default integration just takes care of all that.
But I think you're talking about the event setup tool, right? There's an event setup tool, and then there are automatic events. When you have the Facebook pixel installed, it will just like grab some data from your website and send it to your Facebook account automatically without having any kind of thing installed. And that is something that I don't really use it because I'm too scared that I want to be in control of the tracking, right? So I know, okay, this is tracking correctly and I have tested it. And so Google Tag Manager gives you all the capabilities and all the control, but obviously then you have automatic and then also the event setup tool, which is cool, especially for people who are not very technical. But at the same time, like, what they do is when they scrape, they basically do scraping on the website, which is not the best method to do things, and then maybe it might break and hard to untangle there. So in the end, if you can go with Google Tag Manager, I would always do it. Anyways,
I agree. Especially for WordPress, I find that Google Tag Manager is an awesome solution.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with. Okay, let's go with this question. I'd be curious to know this too. What are your thoughts on the new 3-day delay when switching campaign objectives? How does it change your approach to advertising? Have you encountered that?
Like there's definitely some more delays. And I remember even Facebook was saying that there was a 5-day delay for when you make changes to your ads. I mean, honestly, it's hard to answer because it really depends. Sometimes there will be a delay, sometimes there won't be a delay. But for me, it hasn't really been a big problem because when switching campaign objective, I would not just switch campaign objective. I always create like a different campaign, if that makes sense. Like why, I don't know, why would you switch campaign objective unless like you're maybe doing something like a lead and now you want to do conversion? Or do you know, do you know, Julian, like why would you switch campaign objective?
Yeah, I also ask myself that because obviously Facebook wants you to, the 3-day delay is probably because their algorithms need time, the machine learning, to gather data and so on, which makes sense. So they don't want you to just change this around on randomly and then you get mixed up data because the machine needs to get used to it. But then also you need to be very wary when you switch campaign objectives that suddenly your data might change and there is not really that easily an annotation feature where you can see, oh, from this point forward, I use this campaign objective. So you have mixed data if you look at a wrong time frame. So that's why you would probably just create a new campaign and then you have clean data with a clean objective, and that would make more sense. Maybe you want to, maybe the idea here is skipping the learning phase, but I think Facebook will just start it over again. So
yeah, I'm a big advocate of just starting new campaigns, especially let's say you have an e-commerce store and you're selling shirts, shoes, and hats. Like I would personally not sell the hats, the shoes, everything in the same campaign, even if yes, they're all conversions. I would actually add all of them in different campaigns and add, let's say because you might be selling different sort of shoes, and I would add all these, maybe these shoes in different ad sets, or maybe even I'll have a different campaign for each shoe. Because I definitely believe that a campaign has like its own brain, a little bit like your ad account, and it keeps learning and learning and learning. And if you are changing the objective, or if you're even changing the audience too often, or like it won't have enough time to learn, if that makes sense.
Right. Sam says here, for top of funnel campaigns, I found a lot of success running them as a conversion objective plus optimizing for view content instead of using traffic objective. Have you found something similar? I don't know, and that's something that would you would need to answer that. I haven't really run so many campaigns.
So for top of funnel, I mean, it really depends on I think where your users are in the funnel, and it depends on your industry. So for example, for us as a marketing agency, or even like consultant, when you sell or offer a service that is maybe not super cheap, I find that a reach campaign works really well, because what you're trying to do is just more educate the user. And with the reach campaign, you can say, okay, well, here's my list and I want to reach these people. And you can kind of like create your funnel and your strategy, and that's the first video, right, for the top of funnel. And then you have another video for middle of funnel and bottom of funnel. You can have a lot of videos. And when the people from the audience on top of funnel, they listen to and to watch the first video, then you can add them to maybe a different campaign or different ad set. And now they'll see that other video, and you just bring them down your funnel. That's again more if you have a service-based business, or maybe you offer a product that is a little bit more expensive. I find that a reach campaign will work better, because again, if you have an expensive product, people won't see your ad and go, oh, I'm going to buy right away. Like they'll do the research first. Like they'll definitely want to consume more of your content before they trust you. But if you sell like a product at like $20 and maybe you have a good social presence and you start a campaign, it's a conversion campaign. Well, what Facebook will do is they'll look at their users and see, okay, well, I know this user has been on your website because you have a Facebook pixel. I know that this one is always liking your posts and stuff. So even like the first few weeks or months, they'll show your ads to these users because they know they're more likely to convert. But that's because you have this good brand presence. So I guess it really depends on your current situation, and it depends on your industry as well.
Cool. Let's go with an iOS 14 question here. With iOS 14 rolling out soon, with businesses with multiple agencies and multiple pixels, do we need to consolidate to one pixel? So iOS 14, for those of you who are not aware, was this big update from Apple, especially, well, solely on the iOS devices, where you would get this little pop-up at the end, or when you open up an app, and this would be built into the iOS ecosystem. So it's not something that you control like via website or so. You don't have control over it. The operating system would show a little pop-up once you open up the app for the first time, and it would ask you if you want to be tracked or not to be tracked. And that set off a lot of people, because if you imagine that a lot of people would click not to be tracked, then the data would be depersonalized, and you wouldn't be able to do personalized ads, especially on in apps. So this update is now rolling out slowly, and so the first users have been seeing this kind of thing. And on the Facebook platform, this was a big shakeup, because then Facebook said, okay, if you can't do personalized advertising anymore, then our system is basically under scrutiny here, and people won't get as good of results, especially if you do, for example, a retargeting campaign and you target people on iOS devices. Then you won't be able to reach these people anymore. And so Facebook announced some changes to the platform. And do you want to go through the biggest changes that they announced? Just like, or what you should be doing in terms of the steps that to get iOS 14 ready?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. I'll just start by answering the question. So, do
Yes,
you
sure.
need to translate to one pixel? I actually sat on one of their like private webinars for partners, and they did say that it's 1 pixel per domain, and that is a big problem for large companies that might be using, let's say the name of the company is MyStore. So mystore.ca for the Canadian store, maybe they might be using mystore.uk. And then technically it's a different domain, right? So that is causing a lot of problems. And some agencies are, because I've bumped into other agencies that are like, no, if we work with a client, we want to have our own pixel. So that is also another problem, because from now on, like I guess everyone will have to share the pixel, and everyone will have to agree on the 8 different events that you want to track that pixel. So it definitely makes it more complicated and difficult, and yeah, it's just something that we'll have to get used to and adapt. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Now let's go back to answering your question. And what are the main changes? Well, 100%, the first one is like what I just said, the 1 pixel per domain. Other thing is you need to verify your domain, but that's been there for a long time. Technically, like if you set up your business manager, that should have been done. If you don't know how to do that, I actually just released a video on the channel showing you how to verify your domain and set up your business manager. Then the one we talked about that earlier in this video, it's aggregate event measurement. So making sure you set up your events. And then the other one is like the attribution window. So that was another big change. So they removed their 28-day. Go ahead.
No, from the aggregate event management, you only can now choose 8.
Exactly.
8 events. 8 events, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. 8 events. And yeah, so you can only choose 8 events. And then once you choose them, I believe it takes like 48 hours to be active. And yeah, like I said, regarding the attribution window, so that has changed as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's good information. And yeah, a lot of people are freaking out about it. I think that it's like GDPR and all the other privacy changes that are coming. It is fundamentally changing like kind of the measurement itself. So on iOS, you will probably be able to track less. For some, it has very big implications. For us advertisers, depending if you actually target iOS users, I think that the changes are bigger in the interface and what you need to like verify your domain, 1 pixel. They're changing a bunch of things. But in terms of the data, underlying data, I think we just need the jury is still out there, right? We need to still wait and see how it affects our campaigns. If our advertising prices will go up or will go down, probably they will go up rather. And we'll see if Facebook stays as effective and also other platforms stay as effective as a advertising platform there. So we'll see how this goes.
Well, yeah, one thing I want to say. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I want to say one thing I want to mention is like honestly, I don't think it's like it is definitely a big deal, but it's not that much of a big deal. Like you still can do so many different things, especially if you're doing like I don't know, you're a service-based business. Like you still can collect lead with the lead form as your event, so lead generation as your campaign goal, and you can create a form on your Facebook page. And instead of bringing users to your website, like you can still collect their information. Like that's what I'm doing for my clients in the real estate, and it's like working really, really well. We honestly haven't seen a drop. And even with iOS, there's probably also less people advertising because they're scared. So that could even maybe be an advantage for you, less competition. But don't forget you're paying for attention. And I know that we always want to track conversion, purchase, and we want to track everything. I'm like that, but just it's really at the end of the day, it's a funnel, and you're paying for their attention. And all you want is that user to see your brand and see your message, and that we can still track because it's still in the Facebook platform. And that's what I personally care about, because, like I said, for us, like when we run Facebook campaign, we don't even do conversions unless we're like promoting an ebook or something like that. We do reach. Again, it's different on your industry, especially e-commerce. You might not want to do a reach campaign, but all I really care about is their attention, and
Right.
that's all I want to say.
Yeah, and just to wrap this up, we don't need to forget this is also like a privacy thing, right? This all came about privacy. So if you respect the user's privacy, but also think about like how can we still do advertising even without that data? Then it comes down to, okay, how can we respect people's privacy? And that's a change that we have to just go over the next few years to come, I think. Thank you for the super chat, Lead Genius. Thank you for that. He asked the question, or he got our attention with who will win the analytics war, Google or Facebook? That's a very general one, but yeah, I think from my side, it depends what you're talking about. The ads game is still there are two very powerful platforms, and Facebook and Google Ads are the biggest ones out there. And on that side, there are different platforms, obviously, right? Google Ads functions quite differently. Now, on the analytics side, Google actually has a analytics tool, and this analytics tool is something that that you can that is for free, made for website owners, and you can install it on your website. Facebook doesn't really have that. They had that analytics tool, but it was kind of connected to the advertising tool as well, and they always want to gather as much data as possible. So yeah, on the analytics side, I think that there's no really question like, are there analytics wars going on? There's definitely a data war going on. Who can get the best data for their customers, right? On the Google Ads platform or on the Facebook Ads platform, and who can then process that data most effectively and tie it together. Obviously, Facebook has a very strong platform with like knows what people are doing and also knows your profile information and so on. But you don't have to underestimate Google on that front, because they have so many properties, right? Android, YouTube, the Google search engine, the G Suite, so everything that you do in Gmail and so on. So they have so many properties there. But how can I tie that data together and make it actually effective? That's still something that they're trying to figure out with their new privacy systems and so on. So I don't know who is better suited for this. Facebook probably has a little bit more of an image problem in terms of like how they handle data, and yeah, they obviously still founder-led by Mark Zuckerberg, and so it's like kind of a lot of, and they're a much younger company as well. I don't know what else to say about this analytics war. Do you have any thoughts, Cedric?
I mean, in terms of analytics, I think Google is winning in terms of analytics platform. Like Facebook does a really good job at like reporting what is happening on Facebook, but Google just gives you like we're talking about Google Analytics here, right? So it gives you like an overview of everything. So I don't know. I think they're winning in terms of analytics.
Cool. Okay. Sorry, Raphael. You actually sent us a super chat, so we answered your question. So thanks for that. But let's answer his question. What is the difference between using Google Analytics or third-party attribution tools, softwares like Hyros, Wicked Reports? So I don't think so. First of all, Wicked Reports is also a first party that you install on your website. So you actually Google Analytics is also a third-party web analytics solution, right? You don't own that solution. You don't install it on your own well, you install it on your own website, but the software is not owned by you. You don't install it on a server yourself. So just a distinction here. Now, in terms of attribution, Google Analytics obviously sees all the data sources that come in if they're correctly tagged with UTM parameters, and you have a little bit of capabilities of analyzing that data and going into multi-funnel reports there and so on. Now, Wicked Reports, I think, does it similarly. They have different attribution ways because they also tell you to attach certain things to the URL, and they might be doing different things in terms of tracking that data and how they're actually putting it into reports. And then Hyros, I don't actually know the tool too well. I just know that it's on here on YouTube quite a bit by Alex Becker, I think. Is his name?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's very internet markety. So I don't know, I would stay away from it, but maybe you can tell me your opinion. Just in terms of like the technology, I haven't seen anything that is like super revolutionary. Oftentimes still people are installing pixels, they're checking the URL. And so Google Analytics is not very different from all the other tracking tools out there. The only thing that is different with Wicked's reports, for example, they actually give you implementation support. So oftentimes you find that people are not using Google Analytics correctly because they don't implement it correctly, and therefore they need to get an agency to implement it. With Wicked Reports, the tool actually costs money, and they tell you at upfront cost to set it up. We need to come in and help you out with setting it up, because otherwise you don't get value out of the tool. And therefore, I think that there is a way to say that Wicked Reports is kind of better because they do this implementation, but obviously it costs money. And then I would say, the tool that you actually use is probably the better tool. So if you find yourself using Wicked Reports over Google Analytics more often, then use Wicked Reports, right? So be it. But I wouldn't say that it's better in terms of the database that you get. In the end, everybody is still cooking with water here. And it's not something that's revolutionary that they have found out here, although some of the internet marketers sometimes want to make it seem that way. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Have you worked with any of the tools?
So I'm not familiar with Wicked Reports, but Hyros, I've definitely checked out the platform. And what makes them really special is that it's more of like a CRM than analytics platform. So, I mean, I'm sure, Julian, you know a way of a ninja way to add the customer and the email and the name into Google Analytics, but Hyros actually does that. So you can take a look at your most valuable customers. And the cool thing is that you can see the journey, and it integrates Facebook ads, Google ads, and also I think LinkedIn, and I'm sure now they have other integration for other like advertising platform, but you can literally see the funnel and what actions did the user take before buying and purchasing. So
cool.
The reason why this software got so popular is that it claims that Facebook sometimes miss conversions because maybe someone is using a different device, or maybe they're not logged into Facebook. He's also talking about clearing your cookies and doing things like that, so that Google is also having a hard time tracking your conversions. But Alex claims that with his structure, and he calls it print tracking, which is collecting things like the IP address, the device fingerprint, the cookie, and I feel like he has a few more on that list. With that information, he can track users, and even after 30 days, you can still see like, oh, well, someone clicked on my ad 30 days ago, and then they came back to my website organically, and then they bought the product, so that you can still associate that, maybe that conversion to Facebook. When Facebook, after 80 days of you clicking an ad on Facebook won't associate that conversion to that first click. Because even if it does happen, because it actually happened to me, I think a few years ago, when I saw this ad and I was like, oh, that's really cool, I'm gonna buy this for my girlfriend, but it wasn't her birthday yet. So then, like, when closer to her birthday, then I remembered the name. I was like, then I Googled it and I bought it. But I would have not bought that product if it wasn't for the ad. But if, as like the business owner, I wouldn't be able to see that ad actually generated that sales. But with Hyros, you could. That's the biggest difference.
Yeah, I guess that the data, I mean, in terms of the tracking, it's not that different because it just does the same thing, except of the fingerprinting, which is a technique that is highly well, I wouldn't say it's highly unethical, but it's unethical just in terms of the part of saying, okay, if I don't have cookies anymore because they are unreliable, I take something else like the user's IP address and string it all together and so on. And therefore, it would be under scrutiny if you are an ethical marketer or if you are somebody who operates in Europe, definitely, because you wouldn't be able to then use these identifiers. And I think it's also highly speculative to say like, oh, Facebook is missing this. I think that we don't have so much transparency into the systems, right? Facebook is hiding a lot of stuff. Google is hiding a lot of stuff because of privacy reasons. We cannot look at everything there. But in the end, I agree. If they have a different view on that data and that view suits you more, and they actually do, and you work with the data much closer because you can get more insight out of it, then it's valuable. It doesn't mean that Google Analytics cannot do this. There's probably a ninja way, as you said, to actually get that same data in. But in the end, if you use it more, then that's the tool for you. And I oftentimes found that people actually like, so, for example, Wicked reports, because it's much more geared towards people who build funnels and who are more on the marketing side, right? Google Analytics tries to kind of be the end-all for everybody, and especially for e-commerce, they're a really good e-commerce tool because you can see like your conversions and so on. But what about everything else, right? And therefore, they now brought out a new version with Google Analytics 4, where you can check other stuff, and it's more event-driven model and so on. So yeah, I would say that comparing tools is really hard, and there are actually divisions, and there's actually like companies like Gartner that come in and they help you to decide which tool to pick, just in terms of your requirements. That's a really tough call there. But yeah, look at them and see if you can try them out and see if they actually give you better data, and you can view that data differently. But it doesn't mean that Google Analytics is worse than the other tool. It's just like, yeah, a different view on that data. Okay, I hope that helped.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to say that you would still need to play with the three of them. Like, you wouldn't be able to see like what is the percentage of the user that watch your videos on Facebook. You wouldn't be able to see all these different metrics that you see in Ads Manager. So it's not which one should I use. If you want to use something like Hyros, it would be like a third tool that you're using, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And Google Analytics is obviously still for free, so you can
exactly
keep it installed. All right, we are almost out of time here. I wanted to go for an hour, so this looks pretty good here. Let me just scroll through and see if we have any fast one that we can tackle here. Did you see anyone that we pretty much covered all of them here? Well, Keith asked at the beginning, how are you streaming this, and were you reading the live comments? I'm using a software called Restream, and that's something that works quite well.
Okay. Well, there's a. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just looking at a question. They're saying, with the iOS 14 update and these 8 events, will I still be able to enrich these events with data from the data layer? So order value from conversion events. Do you see that question?
No, is it?
It's from. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name, but I'm just gonna pronounce it. EIKE M.
And is it at the top or at the bottom?
It's more at the bottom.
More at the bottom. Here we go. Ike.
Ike. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Ike is a German name, yeah.
Okay.
The iOS 14 update and the 8 events will still be able to enrich these events with data from the data layer, order value, conversion events. Yeah, you can still send in data as much as you want. The thing is that they don't actually show that data in the ads interface, right? Before you were able to, well, the order value you'll be able to see later on as a conversion value inside of your ads interface. But if you send in any other data, like let's say the weather information or so, that's not something you can see, right, Cedric?
What did you say? What kind of information?
Like you can split up the Facebook pixel and put as much information as you want into the Facebook pixel, right? Into this object. And you don't have to put in, well, they want you to put in value because they use that in the ads interface, but there are
you definitely want to put that.
Yeah, whatever you can put whatever in there, the weather information, or I don't know, which page the user converted on, but Facebook will not actually show you that in the ads interface. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I mean, the only thing that is changing is that you need to go into the aggregated event measurement and tell Facebook which events you want to track. But how you're collecting, let's say you're using Google Tag Manager, how you're creating your trigger and setting your tags for the pixel doesn't change.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. That is it with our live Q&A. This was really fun. Thank you, Cedric, for coming on. Let us know a bit about what you're up to and where people can find out more about you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll hopefully be on the channel pretty often, releasing videos about Facebook ads. So you can,
if you can get
always go check. Exactly. So you can always go and check out the all my YouTube videos. And if you want to learn more about what we do, you can go check out my website, vertexmarketingagency.com, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and also you also have your own YouTube channel for Vertex Marketing Agency. So check that channel out as well. We can put a link somewhere. And there you also have many different other videos on Facebook advertising, and also Google Tag Manager and all that good stuff on tracking. So it's really cool to have met you also through the Measure Masters program. So Cedric came on, and then we started talking, and hopefully we'll be able to do something here on the channel as well for more videos in the future. So thank you so much, Cedric, for coming on. And for now, let me roll people off here. This has been it with, no, I'm not Cedric. This has been it with this MeasureSchool live stream. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll still have the replay up for a bit, so if you want to jump back to one of the questions, you can do so. And if you haven't yet, then definitely subscribe to the channel if we have it over there. And I'll see you next time. My name is Julian. Till next time.